Traveling Kansas, Wallace County is made possible by an underwriting grant from the Wallace County Visitors Bureau and the people of the community who invite you to share a part of our heritage at the Fort Wallace Museum and discover all that Wallace County has to offer. More information is available at travelwallacecounty.com by the generous support of the Dane G. Hansen Community Grant, administered through the Northwest Kansas Foundation and the Wallace County Foundation. By your hosts for the Wallace County Adventures, including in Sharon Springs, Mount Sunflower Bed and Breakfast, Hiles Traveler Motel, and the Oak Tree Inn.
At Farm Credit of Western Kansas, we do more than just lend money. We help today's farmers and ranchers find solutions for the daily challenges of running an ag business. Whatever your needs, Farm Credit of Western Kansas is your ag lender and more. Farm Credit of Western Kansas, 1190 South Range in Colby.
Join us for a visit to see places of interest and attractions right here in Kansas. This is Traveling Kansas.
Welcome to Mount Sunflower, the high point of Kansas, right here in Wallace County. Hi, I'm Jane Humphrey Pierce. I'm the Travel and Tourism Director for the Wallace County Visitors Bureau. We'd like to welcome you to this program about Wallace County. Let's experience together everything that we have to offer here.
I'm Ed Harold. This is my wife Cindy. We are out here on Mount Sunflower, the highest point in Kansas, 4,039 feet above sea level. This land was originally was part of the Union Pacific Railroad when they were building across. They have the mineral rights to it. And then probably shortly after World War II, my grandparents bought this piece of land because they homesteaded where we live in 1906. And my grandfather always liked to have a high point to check his cattle. Now, he never realized that this was the highest point in Kansas because it wasn't designated to be the highest point in Kansas until 1961, which was the Kansas Centennial. And people were doing high pointing, and they designated this to be the high point of Kansas. The Kansas Geological Survey came out from Garden City. They were assigned to find the high point, and the gentleman, I have lost his name, that was assigned to do this wrote us a letter and said he knew it was going to be in the northwest part of Kansas, and so he headed this way.
And we've been the caretakers since 1975. We started having some vandalism, and we'd had several things that were taken. And so this committee of people decided that they would put something out here that could not be stolen. And so things that are there now are set in concrete and cannot be stolen.
Depending on where they're at, and of course nowadays with GPS and there are some nice signs up, it's a lot easier than it used to be when there was no road and they had to come through pastures, open and closed gates and this sort of thing. But you know, you say, well, if you're on Highway 40, go 3 miles west of Weskan and then 12 miles north and 1 more mile back west. And then from I-70, you just come straight down. Well, I say straight down. Most everybody says, but there's curves, and there are. But you keep coming south off of I-70 at the Canareta exit 1. We average about 2 to 3 people every day of the year, 365 days out of the year, but that obviously means that there's not that many here every day, but there might be 20 in one day, there might be 1 in the next day, there might be none in the day after that, but it averages about, you know, anywhere from 1,200 to 2,000 people a year come out.
Nothing really stops people. We have had calls about when it's been muddy or the snow has drifted, if there's any way they could get here, but people are quite determined when it comes to getting to Mount Sunflower.
Because they have told us that they had read that it was open all year round. And I said, yes, it is, except when Mother Nature doesn't cooperate. Just recently had a person say, so why would they come to Mount Sunflower? And I said, I guess it's an anomaly that they have to see for themselves, because most people, and in one of the books there I put that technically this is not a mountain because it doesn't have the proper rise within 20 miles, but that, you know, I didn't designate the place and I didn't designate the name, so I just enjoy it.
Hello, my name is Valerie Smith and I am the museum designer here at the Fort Wallace Museum. Right now I am sitting underneath a 40-foot fossil. It is a plesiosaur. It is one of our features in our new addition here at Fort Wallace. And sitting beside me is a mosasaur. Most likely this guy would have been about 40 feet as well. We only have the head, a casting of it. And this is a really great story that has to do with our history here. This plesiosaur was discovered in 1867 here at Fort Wallace. There were some pioneers that were passing through and they ran into the surgeon at Fort Wallace and said, hey, there is a huge fossil out there. You should really go check it out, see what's going on. So the active surgeon went out there with some soldiers in between dodging arrows from the natives. They went out there, pulled up a couple fossils, and there happened to be a surveying team that was passing through at the time. And so Dr. Turner gave these fossils to the surveying crew, and the surveying crew took them to Philadelphia. They got into the hands of Edward Drinker Cope, who was a predominant paleontologist at the time. He saw those fossils and he immediately wrote back to the doctor here at Fort Wallace and said, we want all of those fossils. Please go pull up everything that you can. I will pay for all the expenses of getting them shipped back to Philadelphia. And so Dr. Turner, he did do that, and he had to have protection from other soldiers when he would go out there and fossil hunt. And so he pulled out 1,000 pounds of bone and matrix, and he put it on a wagon because the train did not come here at that time. So they put it on a wagon to Hayes. At Hayes it was put on the train, and then it went to Philadelphia, where Edward Drinker Cope hurriedly put it together. And it still remains in Philadelphia, the original, but we have a casting of it here that is now back in Wallace County where it was once discovered. Our new addition here at Fort Wallace is made possible by a very generous donation from Milford Becker. And he has been a very big inspiration for this new addition. He never learned to read or write, yet he was very successful. So our biggest motivation for our new addition is that people can come in here and really experience what history was like without having to be bombarded with too much information and too much reading material, but to be able to step back in time and feel and experience and see what life was 150 years ago. We have the oldest building out here in western Kansas. On our museum grounds, we have the original stage station built 1865. This building really signified that change was coming for the natives. Multiple attacks upon the stage station is what led to the establishment of Fort Wallace here in Wallace County. They knew that they needed protection out here because of all the resistance from the natives. Then after the Fort Wallace story, we will go into the indoor Old Town, and here we have reconstructed 13 buildings that existed around the 1880s here in Wallace. They were some of the first buildings here that allowed settlers to really thrive and strive here in the plains and have access to goods. Two general stores, the Roubidou and the Madigans, who were friends but also friendly competitors as well. We have the Wallace Hotel, which was owned and operated by Frederick Harvey, who went on to establish the Harvey Houses, which were very successful. We have the Western Times print office, which is the oldest consecutive newspaper in the state of Kansas, primarily run by females. We will also have a saloon that will feature the cattle trails that came through here, a sod schoolhouse, and a barn to commemorate the barnyard dances that used to take place here in Wallace County, which were very popular. In 2007, we also had a new addition here at Fort Wallace, which is the Florist and Viola Weiser collection. And this features thousands of relics that have been found by Florence Weiser. What he did was, before he retired, he was given a metal detector. And so he started walking up and down the Smoky Hill Trail and began to branch off out of this. And he was incredibly meticulous, so he kept very detailed records of everything that he found. Everything in this room is mapped out when and where it was found. So that's kind of what sets this collection above some other ones, is because it is so well recorded. It was a 33-year hobby of his, and he said that he reckons he probably walked about 1,600 miles with his metal detector. The collection of Florence Weiser is juxtaposed with paintings from historical painter Jerry Thomas, who is a Kansas native from Scott City, now living in Manhattan. And he and Florence were very good friends. So Florence would go out and find a particular area, and then he would consult with Jerry, and they were able to decide what historical events happened in these areas. And Jerry would come out and create these incredibly beautiful, detailed paintings. There are two very significant paintings in the Florence Weiser room that relate to Fort Wallace. Another painting that is incredibly significant to Fort Wallace depicts a battle that took place on June 26, 1867. We earned the nickname the fightingest fort in the West because we engaged in more conflict with the native than any other fort in the state of Kansas. Soldiers were lost, natives were lost, and actually out in this cemetery here, we still have a cenotaph. We have a monument that commemorates the soldiers that we lost during that battle and the battles that took place here during the summer of 1867.
We're here at the Fort Wallace Cemetery. This is the only remaining evidence of the fort that was once here until 1883. In here in the cemetery, we have graves from civilians and from the soldiers. Most of the soldiers' graves have been removed when the fort was decommissioned in 1888. These graves were taken, exhumed, the bodies were exhumed, and then the graves were relocated to Fort Leavenworth. The only remaining graves here are those who died of cholera, because cholera actually exists long after the person is dead or deceased, and the grave would have been infected. Here in the civilian side, we have many significant gravestones, including those who were scouts at Beecher Island, those who were wagon workers, those who were drovers. We have sutlers, we have children of people that were here, we have buffalo hunters, all kinds of really interesting epitaphs that are tragic, heartrending, and very dramatic. One in particular that's here at the back of the cemetery is from the German family. The German family was attacked by Cheyenne in 1874, and the bodies of the family members are interred here because they were discovered and their bodies were brought by the soldiers to the Fort Wallace Cemetery. The wall around the cemetery shows what kind of stone was used in a lot of the buildings. It's a really lovely coral-colored limestone that was said to glow in the sun from a distance. One of the things you'll see when you come here to the cemetery is a monument placed by the 7th Cavalry at the end of the summer of 1867 in memorial to their comrades who were killed in action here in the early Indian Wars time. It's one of the very few artifacts or leftover or monuments left by the 7th Cavalry anywhere. It's inscribed with the names of those who were killed in the conflict here, and it's a very poignant reminder of how dangerous life was here out on the frontier. We're sitting here in the Bethany Lutheran Church that was built in 1888 in the Swedish community of Stockholm, which was south of the little town of Weskan. And the pioneers there, the settlers, came from Lindsborg, Chicago, and Sweden, settled it and built this little church as one of their first projects. and the community folded due to lack of water and railroad access, and then was moved in 1954 to the town of Weskan, where it became its community Lutheran church. And in 2014, the community donated this beautiful, lovely little church to the Fort Wallace Museum. It was brought cross-country, moved here, and then restored to its 1888 appearance, and is fully functional. It's a fully functional church with modern amenities, but an antique feel, and it's just lovely. We've used it for Christmas and Easter events, as well as weddings. It is available to be rented for weddings, and it's a lovely venue for that. Just clean and simple, and makes a perfect wedding chapel. We also have the 1891 train depot from the Union Pacific train depot from Weskan, and that is on our grounds with lots of railroad memorabilia about the Kansas Pacific and the Union Pacific on the inside. We have a fabulous building full of really unusual artifacts, including wagons, fire trucks, Conestogas, an operational chuck wagon in there, pulled by barbed wire animals, sculpted out of barbed wire. So you're not going to see that every day. That's really different, and it was created, those things, as well as the barbed wire buffalo that's in the front of our museum, one of our symbols, were sculpted by Ernie Poe from Sharon Springs, and he made it a folk art hobby to make all these items out of the wire that changed the West. Ernie is a really fun guy. He used to be mayor of Sharon Springs, and he joked that he got tangled up in that hobby and just never quite got out of it. The Fort Wallace Museum is located along historic Highway 40. It's part of the Western Vistas Historic Byway, and we're also a side trip on the new Land and Sky Scenic Byway. And we welcome visitors. Keep in mind that Highway 40 is the shortest route between, say, Hayes and Colorado Springs. So if you want to get off at Oakley and you're coming west, this is the fun, exploring way to come. You'll see lots of wonderful scenery. You'll see the unspoiled beauty of Western Kansas. And we really would like to host you here at the Fort Wallace Museum and let you explore history in a really real and vibrant way. Our hours can be found on our website, which is www.ftwallace.com. We have a very active Facebook presence. Check us out on Facebook and you'll see lots more of things that are going on, as well as fun history from this area. The byways are a wonderful way to see Kansas, to see this area and explore, you know, off the beaten path. Let's get off the beaten path and see what Kansas has to offer.
Come see us at the Fort Wallace Museum!
Traveling Kansas, Wallace County is made possible by an underwriting grant from the Wallace County Visitors Bureau and the people of the community who invite you to share a part of our heritage at the Fort Wallace Museum and discover all that Wallace County has to offer. More information is available at travelwallacecounty.com. By the generous support of the Dane G. Hansen Community Grant, administered through the Northwest Kansas Foundation and the Wallace County Foundation. By your hosts for the Wallace County Adventures, including in Sharon Springs, Mount Sunflower Bed and Breakfast, Hiles Traveler Motel, and the Oak Tree Inn.
At Farm Credit of Western Kansas, we do more than just lend money. We help today's farmers and ranchers find solutions for the daily challenges of running an ag business. Whatever your needs, Farm Credit of Western Kansas is your ag lender, and more. Farm Credit of Western Kansas, 1190 South Range in Colby.
I'm Judy Okeson, and you're in the park at Weskan, Kansas. Our master gardeners decided our dilapidated park with all of its dead elm trees needed a facelift and something to honor our veterans in our county. It's all donations. and in November we dedicated this wall. If you're a veteran and you have had residence in Wallace County and you've been discharged honorably, you can have your name added to the wall. Just the other day we had a man from California that had come through, and his father had been superintendent at Sharon Springs, and he asked us to add his name and sent a $75 donation to help cover the expense of adding the name. Kansas Granite at Ellis, Kansas worked with us, and Brian and his crew were just phenomenal. They knew exactly what we had in mind and put it all together, and we went with the fatigue because every branch of the service wears fatigues. Everybody else has different dress uniforms, so we went this way so it wasn't any specific military branch. If anybody'd like to donate and help our park, we still have more trees to plant to the north, and we're putting a berm in there, and it'll have a sign for the park. The cheerleaders did a car wash and donated the money to put a sign at the end of the park.
Well, I'm Melba Baylor. I'm the manager of the Mount Sunflower Bed and Breakfast here in Sharon Springs. The church was built in 1922 and operated until sometime in the early 2000s. Don Smith knew that it was vacant. He grew up here and had ties here, and he wanted to make sure that the building didn't get tore down, so he bought it and then brainstormed about what to do with it after he bought it and came up with the idea to turn it into a bed and breakfast. We have 4 rooms on the top and 4 rooms on the main level, and then we have a basement, which is our dining room and kitchen, and a little meeting room down there. We do have a website. It's mountsunflowerbnb.com. Sharon Springs offers a number of places to stay. The Oak Tree Inn, the Traveler Heil Motel, and the Tumbleweed Motel. And we get a lot of people who are on their en route either to or from Colorado Springs, and they come through here and they like to spend the evening and have breakfast and then continue on their trip.
My name is Richard Gray, and I'm at Sharon Springs, Kansas. I've lived here, born here, and lived here all my life. I started out in 1951. We was down to the Catholic Church doing some cleaning up, remodeling, and the old pump organ had quit, and Father Cruz asked me if I had my pickup, and I said yes. Well, he wanted to know if I'd load that old organ up and take it to dump, and I said, well, yes, I will, but I won't take it to dump, I'll take it home. I farmed at that time. So I took it home with me, and I knew nothing about the pump organ. I worked on that all winter long, took it apart, put it together, took it apart. Time spring come, I kind of understood how they worked. I have 64 in this building, and I've been through reconditioning, they all play, they all work. And I have a total of about 80. I've had 80. I've sold a few. I think I'm down to about 76 right now. So I got a sign up there that's got my name, my phone, both my cell phone and my house phone. If anybody sees them that night, I have people look in the window and see them. They give me a call. And I come down here at 10 o'clock at night. And all through the day, any time that I'm available, I'll come down and show them.
I'm Etta Walker. We're here at North Park in Sharon Springs. North Park is a county-owned park in the middle of Sharon Springs, the city of Sharon Springs. Our playground renewal project started about 3 years ago with a Rotary International District 5670 grant to improve playground safety. But once we started, we realized there was no way we could really make it safe unless we started from scratch. So we did, and over the past 3 years, we have had donations from city residents, county residents, absentee landowners, people who grew up here and moved away, all kinds of people, and from many foundations, especially the Dane G. Hansen Foundation in Logan, Kansas. It's been a community project. We started with playground designers at our elementary school. They worked with children. The children's #1 request was to have more swings, so we're going to have lots of swings, a train-themed playground which fits in with our community's Union Pacific history. And we'll have a train, a depot, all kinds of fun playground equipment, and it will be different from other parks in the area. We have hundreds of volunteers helping, and it's just a great example of what happens every year all over the county. This county happens because of volunteers. We tried to count the hours one year, and it was in the tens of thousands. We have all volunteer EMTs, firefighters, the home-owned carnival. All those people have come here to help us with this park, and it's not a that's your community, this is my community kind of thing. We have tools from the Weskan school, we have people from Weskan and Wallace all over helping with this. That's what's great about Wallace County. The Wallace County Foundation has served as the nonprofit group that has organized this project and received funds. We are committed to the future of the county. We're working to give scholarships to students, invest in local facilities, and try to preserve local history. Anything that is for the betterment of Wallace County, the Wallace County Foundation supports.
Hi, I'm Tamara. I'm from Wallace County. I would like to encourage folks to come to Wallace County to enjoy the many recreational amenities that we have here. Wallace County has other really nice recreational opportunities. Go for a swim in our county pool or catch a round on our local golf course. Enjoy a picnic in the shade of old cottonwood trees at the South Park, or bring your kids to explore the brand new playground at the North Park. On weekends, enjoy recently released movies at a very reasonable price at the volunteer-operated Strand Theater. Don't miss the Wallace County Cruisers Car Show on the first weekend in May, or the thrills of the Fort Wallace Rodeo on Memorial Day weekend. Come and spend a day with us, or stay longer.
That's all for today for this episode of Traveling Kansas. Hope you enjoyed everything that Wallace County had to offer. If you want to find out more, go to our website at travelwallacecounty.com or catch up with what's new on our Facebook page. This is Jane Humphrey Pierce on top of Mount Sunflower. Come to see us soon.
Traveling Kansas, Wallace County is made possible by an underwriting grant from the Wallace County Visitors Bureau and the people of the community who invite you to share a part of our heritage at the Fort Wallace Museum and discover all that Wallace County has to offer. More information is available at travelwallacecounty.com. By the generous support of the Dane G. Hansen Community Grant, administered through the Northwest Kansas Foundation and the Wallace County Foundation. By your hosts for the Wallace County Adventures, including in Sharon Springs, Mount Sunflower Bed and Breakfast, Hiles Traveler Motel, and the Oak Tree Inn.
At Farm Credit of Western Kansas, we do more than just lend money. We help today's farmers and ranchers find solutions for the daily challenges of running an ag business. Whatever your needs, Farm Credit of Western Kansas is your ag lender, and more. Farm Credit of Western Kansas, 1190 South Range in Colby.